afternoon. I'm Sandy McDonald. I'm the Director of the Office of Economic and Small Business Development, and I want to thank you for joining us today on this Thursday, December the 9th, for our training session, What is Good Faith Efforts? So let's talk about that before we go any further. First of all, we will make sure that the PowerPoint is made available on our website. Second of all, we're going to keep that PowerPoint there for a year, 2 or 3 years, or longer, until there's any changes, because this is significant. It's actually major. It's major if you are a prime contractor. It's major if you're one of my CBEs, County Business Enterprises, acting as a prime contractor. And it's also major if you are a CBE as a subcontractor and understanding good faith efforts. So I'm going to go through this today. A little different than most of my presentations. I don't normally read the slides, but today, some of the slides I have to read. I want to be specific and clear in my demonstration or my illustration of what we're trying to speak to make sure that you know exactly where you can also come back and find this information. But as we go through the slides, as we go through this PowerPoint, any questions you have, please place those in the Q&A. Now for the chat, you can all give a shout out who you are. My staff can give a shout out back to who you are. But any questions you have that you would like for me to answer at the end of the presentation, put all questions in the Q&A. Don't put your questions in the chat. Put your questions in the Q&A. Next slide. What is good faith efforts? Let's talk about this office. Office of Economic and Small Business Development, small business focused office. We're here because of goals, missions, and visions as assigned to us by the County Commission. We are a service delivery office simply because we work with all agencies inclusive of purchasing. When an agency is looking to procure, to buy a good material, service, or product, we get the chance to look at that request before the bid, and we get to determine if they will put or if we will recommend a small business goal. That's who we are as an office. Next slide. OESBD certification. So keep in mind today's theme, what is good faith effort? Well, let's make sure you understand who we are as a small business and the programs that we're implementing. Our small business program, our local small business program, CBE, County Business Enterprise. Our smallest of the two local programs, SBE, Small Business Enterprise. But we also administer 49 CFR Part 2326 of the federal program dealing with DOT, Department of Transportation money. And we have a DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and ACDBE, Airport Concessions, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. Those are OESBD certification programs. Next slide. Keep in mind, as I'm going through this, what is good faith effort? So let's talk more about my small businesses. My SBE is my sheltered market or my reserve opportunity. In short, whenever the county is looking to procure, buy a good, $250,000 or less, I have SBE or sheltered market opportunities to consider. Now, who as a business is one of my SBEs? This is when the owner has a personal net worth of 1.32 million or less, not counting his or her primary residence. This is when they have about 15 employees or less. This is when that business's average revenue for gross receipts, when it's in construction services, they're averaging about $3 million a year or less over 3 years. When it's in contractual services, it's about $1 million or less, averaging over 3 years. And when it's in professional consulting services, it's about $500,000 on an average of 3 years or less. If you submitted an application for consideration to be a certified small business and we reviewed your application and you fit that model, we would certify you as an SBE. But what's the CBE? The majority of my small businesses are CBE. And this is when the county's looking to procure goods, materials, services, and products over $250,000. To be an eligible or a certified CBE, once again, the personal net worth of the owner's personal net worth has to be 1.32 million or less, not counting his or her primary residence. The business is independent. It's been in Broward at least 1 year, same with the SBE, been in Broward at least 1 year, and you're providing a good material or service in the course of your business that the county's looking to procure. That's another one of our buzzwords for useful function. To be a CBE, you need to be providing a useful function. When you win a county contract, it's not to be a pass-through, you have to provide a useful function. But as a business, the average gross receipts has to be $5 million or less over 3 years for most of my industries. But if you're in construction, the company can average $9 million or less over a 3-year period. Folks, that's the main parts of my SBE and CBE. This is always plastered on my website. But again, for today's what is good faith effort, it's important to know if I'm a CBE or SBE, who you are. It's important to know if I'm a county prime contractor looking to win a bid, who is it that I'm actually looking for? Those are the criteria and the qualifications and eligibility for my SBEs and my CBEs. Next slide. Business Opportunity Act. I often in my workshops talk about 3 Ps: program, process, people. Now, I'm not really going to get to the process and the people today, but the program aspect is this: the ordinance, what we're established by, what tells small businesses their role and opportunities are in the county's procurement process. This ordinance also tells prime contractors that the county is committed to a small business program. It lets prime contractors know as a part of the bid process, it will speak to the small business program. It lets prime contractors and others know that there's an Office of Economic and Small Business Development that's responsible for the small business portion of county solicitations and future bids, as well as contracts. The Business Opportunity Act spells out those devil in the details about the office, about the small business program, about SBEs and CBEs, and about how the county has married BOA, the Business Opportunity Act, to the procurement code, because the county is committed to assuring some of what we buy from certified small businesses in Broward. And that's going to be key today. Again, what is good faith effort? It's about some of what we purchase is going to be purchased from certified small businesses. And in the instance that we don't have the business or don't have enough of the businesses, or we can't identify the businesses, or the businesses don't make themselves available, all of that speaks to what must be shown when trying to demonstrate good faith efforts. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But again, on our website, you can always find the BOA, the Business Opportunity Act. So never forget about the Business Opportunity Act. And explaining good faith efforts means that the bidder or prime contractor, without an intent to defraud or to seek an unfair advantage. Remember, I told you in the beginning, some of the slides today I'm going to read. 90% of the time, I never read the slides. It's for you to read and for me to just give an overview. But it's important that I say that first sentence again. Good faith efforts means that a bidder or prime contractor, without an intent to defraud or to seek an unfair advantage, took all necessary steps to secure and maximize CBE participation to meet or exceed the established CBE goal for the project. Folks, in short, good faith effort means that you understand we have a small business program. You understand we plan that a portion of what you do as a prime contractor, you will do with our small businesses. You understand that there's a process that we can even assist you in identifying those small businesses. You understand that if there's a scenario upon which you can't identify those small businesses, you really need to be doing that in conjunction with us in order for you to demonstrate your good faith efforts. This is good faith effort opportunities. We're going to talk today about some of the details. I am not going to leave you hanging. You're actually going to hear from me exactly what needs to be done to demonstrate good faith effort based on how we review those criteria when we're doing our compliance reviews. Next slide. Determination of good faith efforts. So let's be clear about the determination of good faith efforts. Letters of intent. You will read, and maybe I should start there. When you're reviewing the solicitation tells you when there's a recommended goal. When this office, based on the project seeking to be procured, when we've identified the potential subcontracting opportunities and we establish a CBE goal, at least 25%, maybe it's 30, maybe it's a 40% goal. But once we establish the goal, when you see the solicitation that also speaks to the small business program, you would recognize there are certain things you have to do when you send your response or your bid back in. One is we're going to hold you to LOIs, letter of intent, or sometimes when there's a two-step phase, we just ask you for a contractor assurance, saying that at the end of the day, yep, I know it's a small business program. You just ask me right now, am I willing to commit to the program? And later on, you're going to tell me about the goal. That's when we use contractor assurances. But most of the time, when a bid hits the street, when that solicitation is on the street, when that prime contractor is considering responding to that solicitation by submitting a bid, you are told when a goal applies that you need to get LOIs, letter of intent, from potential CBEs you plan to use. And I want to be clear, you might be scoping out multiple CBEs, but the ideal is that you're going to give to the review committee, you're going to send back to purchasing who it is you plan to use to meet that goal. And we'll talk about it later. This isn't the day and era when you can pick someone to meet that goal. And if you're fortunate enough to win the contract, 3 weeks or 3 months after you win, you now get rid of these people and go hire someone else. We don't do that no more. So we try to be real clear about making sure we can work with our primes to satisfy good faith effort by making sure on the front end, primes are aware of what's expected in terms of identifying small businesses or CBEs to use. And when you can't, how do you demonstrate good faith efforts? Determination of good faith efforts, there's an actual section that we have that I'm sharing with you today that will help to determine. And what does that really mean? It means you get to know on the front end, and this is going to be on our website. It's not going to be a part of the link that we want to make sure is written in solicitations. You will always be able to go back and know on the front end, if I'm ever going to submit a good faith application, because I just couldn't find those small businesses, we want to make sure that you know exactly what me and my staff are going to look at when we get your good faith application. We don't want it to be a guessing game. We want you to know if you did these things, and if at the end of the day, you couldn't find any small businesses to meet that goal that we recommended, and you did these things, we want to approve your good faith effort. But we want to be just as clear. If we tell you that these are the things you need to do, and you don't do them, and you just submit a good faith application without demonstrating them, then you need to understand our compliance memo will be, did not meet the recommended goal and did not demonstrate good faith efforts. So to my earlier point, I don't want prime contractors guessing. Today, we're going to show you exactly what we consider and review when we're talking about good faith effort. Next slide. Satisfying of good faith efforts. So there are certain sections of the ordinance, we're still on the Business Opportunity Act, that tells you what you need to do to satisfy good faith efforts. Some of the things, A, soliciting CBE participation through activities. Sometimes the county agencies have pre-bid meetings. Well, that's one. You want to get familiarized, and you certainly want to attend any pre-bid meeting. These days, most have been virtual. If we go back to face-to-face, you want to attend them, but you also want the attendance list from that meeting. Because though we have a small business directory, and we'll talk about that later, bare minimum, if you got the attendance list and you recognize there are some small businesses who are in attendance, at least you immediately got some folks you can reach out to. But we have a full directory of all the certified small businesses that you can also reach out to. Advertising. Folks, if you want to demonstrate good faith efforts, you're going to have to demonstrate to me that you advertise the opportunity. Now, we can drill down on that later. Mr. McDonald, what's advertising? I stuck it on my website, but I didn't let nobody know I put it on my website. Mr. McDonald, what's advertising? You got 900 plus certified firms. I sent an email to 2 out of your 900 plus. Mr. McDonald, what's advertising? We're going to talk about multiple ways you can advertise that you have this opportunity available. Written notices, direct communications from this meet and greet, previous meet and greets. Some prime contractors are requiring my small businesses to do pre-qualification documentation. Any written notifications and notices you have that you can announce this contractual opportunity with this goal, and you're seeking small businesses to help you meet this opportunity. Anything that you can do, any kind of written notice is that opportunity. But it also tells my prime contractor, the bidder must solicit this interest. You must solicit this interest in a timely manner. So I got to be honest, let's talk about it. Bids come out, and you have a certain amount of time to respond to the bid. And we know you're very busy getting the details of the project, the narrative of the project, assembling the total team, and looking at your dollars, trying to make the best competitive bid of it. And some of you wait to the last minute to then say, oops, I got to meet that goal. Let me go find some CDs. Remember, as a part of the demonstration of good faith effort, you have to solicit the interest from the CVEs in a timely fashion. So as an example, if a solicitation was due on this upcoming Monday, and you've already dotted all your I's and crossed your T's, and you now say, oops, I got to find my CVEs. And you say, well, let me send out a notification of interest to CVEs in the directory that I'm looking for them. Let me send that out today. And I need to hear back from them on Monday so I can submit my bid on Tuesday. Folks, I might look at that and I might say that was not a timely manner in terms of soliciting interest. So keep in mind, you want to solicit interest, but do so in a timely manner. And the reason why that example might not be in a timely manner, because you also need to give yourself time to follow up on your solicitation, on your interest, or on your inquiry to see which CBEs are interested. So if you tell them to respond, you want to eventually get the response back so you can follow up to see which of them you might be serious about, or might be serious about the opportunity, or begin to go into your negotiation. So it is important that you recognize, yes, your entire duration of the bid is essential. Yes, you definitely need to make sure you submit a bid on time, if not in advance. But you have to start owning that the small business portion is a part of that bid. And at the end of the day, if you can't identify the firms, the CBEs, to meet the goal, and your intent is to explain that, but through your good faith effort, you're going to need to make sure that you submitted information of interest, that you did it timely, and that you gave enough time for yourself to even do follow-up. All of these things are the beginning of demonstrating good faith efforts. Next slide. So again, as I said in the beginning, if you have any questions, be sure to put those questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end. Another part of satisfying good faith effort, identifying the portions of the work that could reasonably be performed by a CBE in order to increase the likelihood that the CBE goal would be achieved. Let's be crystal clear. You might, as a prime, be going after the project, the whole kit and caboodle. The reality is, and you need to understand this in support of you, we've already worked with the user agency. We already took a look based on us and specifically the user agency of what are some of the subcontracting opportunities. It's based on that and the availability of my CBEs that we established a goal. So we established a goal based on knowing who we have that can provide some of the subcontracting opportunities based on what we learned from the user agency who wants to buy this service or this product or this good. Folks, that's how we actually established the goal. So if that's true, you need to understand, you might be bidding on the bigger package, but to try to meet that goal, we're only talking about some of the subcontracting opportunities. You want to make sure that you're creating that sum in a manner that's attractive to CBEs, that's reasonable for CBEs to do. And I want to be clear, we're not saying chop up your project to where it ends up costing more money to deliver. I'm going to challenge you every day on that. It is not costing you more to use small businesses for the participation for work that has to be completed anyway. And if you believe so, then on the economic development side of this office, I need to have those real conversations with you. And if you're ever claiming that as a part of your bid, you certainly can't claim it. You're going to have to demonstrate it. But again, we're here to help you meet the goal, exceed the goal as recommended, or demonstrate good faith. That's why we're saying you want to look at the project and the subcontracting opportunities portions in a reasonable fashion, where appropriate and commercially practicable. We don't want you to do something that's crazy just to meet my goals. But at the end of the day, you need to recognize we've already aligned this with the user agency that's actually doing the procuring, that we're comfortable and confident that we have CBEs who can fulfill those subcontracting opportunities. Another thing to keep in mind, providing each interested CBE with adequate information about the plan, specification, and requirements. It's one thing to notice them. It's one thing to request an LOI. It's one thing to share information in a timely fashion. Folks, you also have to give them whatever the devil in the details is so that they would know what you're asking of them. This also works in your favor as a prime. You don't want to just force feed an opportunity to a CBE and lock yourself into a CBE to find out later that the CBE can't deliver, or to find out later that the CBE, based on the description you gave you a quote that now doesn't match what you really need from the CBE. You want to be clear about that, because remember something I said earlier. When you marry yourself to a CBE via the LOI, that letter of interest, you're married. There is a formal process to substitute, but you got to go through that process. You just can't remove them later on. And if you're talking about trying to demonstrate good faith because you couldn't find the CBE, you're going to have to demonstrate in that application to me where you met those criteria of providing adequate information, plans, and specification. You're telling me that CBEs couldn't do the job because you sent this out, you gave the specifics, you gave the specs, you gave the plans, and either my CBEs didn't respond or they didn't respond adequately. You're the one who has to demonstrate to me that you put forth good faith efforts in trying to find CBEs to deliver on the subcontracting opportunities. Next slide. The other part of this, satisfying of good faith efforts, negotiating in good faith with each interested CBE. So again, we know the clock is ticking because most of you do wait to the end to try to find your CBE. But at the end of the day, you still got to give yourself enough time to negotiate what the opportunity is. Folks, I get to say this because this is truly a requirement. Sometimes CBEs come and say, Mr. McDonald, there was no time to negotiate. He called and he told me what he needed, and he told me that this is the price and that's it. Folks, that's written for a reason. Negotiating in good faith with each interested CBE. You're supposed to be negotiating. So keep in mind, if you got the CBEs you need and you submit that application, at the end of the day, when we do a review, you met the compliance. If you don't find the CBEs and you plan on submitting a good faith application, well then keep in mind, I'm going to need evidence of such a negotiation. I'm going to need additional information that's going to tell me why you're not going with the CBEs that you not only submitted information on, that you're able to follow up on, and their price was so crazy. You just can't tell me something. You're going to have to demonstrate and give me the backup for that information. That's key to the remainder of the points that I'm going to make about good faith efforts. It's not just signing your name and checking some boxes. You have to provide me and my staff backup documentations of the things you've actually done, what CBEs have actually said to you or not, what additional outreach you may have made, any negotiations you actually went into, when the price just doesn't work in comparison to the outside market or other CBEs, whatever it is that becomes your determination that you now need to demonstrate good faith efforts because you could not meet the recommended goal, you have to demonstrate it, not just write it. Rejecting an interested CBE as being unqualified for participation only after diligently investigating the CBE's capabilities and documenting the sound reasons justifying such rejection. So I'm not saying that you can't reject the CBE. Yes, you can. And we want you to tell us exactly why not. Again, all of this is no one individual thing. All of this collectively helps the prime demonstrate to my staff and then to me that they've attempted, that the good faith effort was executed. It was attempted. They tried to meet it and they couldn't. And here's all my backup documentation as to why I could not. Next slide. More satisfaction of good faith efforts. Contacting OESBD for assistance. And folks, this is the easy one. It's one of the eligibilities for review. It's one of the things that we consider when we try to determine if you made good faith or not. We get applications of good faith efforts and no one even calls us. Folks, we want you to call us. If you're having trouble with that directory, call us. If you're using that directory and you're not getting responses, call us. You can tell us what's actually going on. And if you're doing it as a part of the process, and you can, if you're doing it as a part of the process, then it helps to make your case. So you don't have to be in this alone. And what's the best way I can say it? If my office helps you in the processes that we have to try to identify CBEs to meet your goal, and if at the end of the day, my office can't help you find CBEs, then you know you've satisfied my good faith efforts. Because if I can't help you find CBEs in my directory for eligible services and opportunity, then you know you've met it. So you don't have to contact my office. It's encouraged that you contact our office. Use the resources available. Yes, the directory is there. But you're being told that, hey, we take under consideration. Did they tell us before they submitted this good faith application? Did they reach out to us? Did they ask for additional assistance? Was it something that we could have done to help them? We're telling you on the front end. We're here to support your efforts. Our job is to create as many opportunities for small businesses as possible. And if to do so, one of the things that we can do fairly across the board is to make sure that the primes that they're trying to identify CBEs have the access to the tools and the resources to my CBEs that they need. So don't allow the directory or any other reason to be yours for not meeting good faith. Another one, actively pursuing outreach opportunities, advertising meet and greets and written notices to CBEs that may have the capacity. Folks, just don't send that one email. You can notify us of an opportunity. We can continuously post. Again, you can contact us. And though you may have had 4 or 5 that you're familiar with through the directory, we can always tell you others. You have access to different newsletters, different small business organizations, not telling you which ones to use, which ones not to use. But I am saying you have to demonstrate that you did ongoing advertising and promotions and creating opportunities to try to find those CBEs. We need to see that as a part of your demonstration. Next slide. Other efforts that can be done. Utilizing one or more CBEs as per the submitted letter of intent. Yes, it's not just one CBE, it can be multiple CBEs. Timely submission of the monthly utilization report. Yes. Now, I don't want to get this too mixed up. MURs are key because the monthly utilization report, if you win a contract, you read in the solicitation, we're looking at you monthly. Those are things you're going to have to do monthly. And again, I don't want to mix this part up. There's the good faith effort on the front part, trying to consider as we try to make the award. And then there's continuous good faith effort once you have the contract, that you are actually working with the CBEs that you did identify. You're not only working with them and you're using them, but you're paying them. Those are other things that happen during the process. And here's a key for the original demonstration of good faith. This is when you're on the front end, you looked at the solicitation, you saw the small business goal, and you did all those outreach things, or so you believe you did all those outreach things. You even reached to our office to make sure you had the correct directory, and so you can contact all the small businesses of that discipline that might be interested in being your sub on this contract. I need to remind you as a prime, another criteria that's available to me when reviewing your good faith efforts is the program director may also consider the level of CBE participation proposed by other bidders. So let's be crystal clear on this part. There's a bid on the street, and there's 5 prime contractors who said, I'm going to respond to that bid. And let's say 4 of those prime contractors all met the goal. The goal was 25%. All 4 found CBEs to meet the goal. And let's say the 5th one found CBEs, but only 10% to meet the goal. Not the 25 like the other 4, but with the 10%, this prime, submitted a good faith effort on why he couldn't find the others. We need to be crystal clear. 1-81.5 section D3 is telling you as a prime, the program director may also consider the level of CBE participation proposed by other bidders. When I have to make a final determination of who demonstrated good faith or not, the staff comes with their recommendation. They got all the things you did or didn't do. They're either recommending met good faith or didn't meet good faith. The ordinance allows one additional review by me, the director, and I could, based on what's given to me by staff, also take a look at your good faith, and I could compare you to the other 4. So let's be crystal clear in that example. If I have 5 bids to come in, and 4 bids met or exceeded my goal of 25%, and the 5th one comes in, and it did not meet or exceed my goal. Matter of fact, it was less, and they filled out a good faith effort application. Please understand, I'm allowed to say 4 out of 5 met or exceeded my goal. This one, even with their definition, did not do so. I can say non-compliant. I can say did not meet good faith effort. The example would be you couldn't find 25, but 4 other firms not related to you found my 25. So that's what that piece is saying. As a comparison, I can take a look at the other responders and what they've done and determine if this one response meets good faith or not. Again, folks, all of this will remain on our website. What I need you to do, we're not done yet, but I just want to say this part now. I need you to recognize you can always call this office even for a one-on-one consultation, especially if you're prime. I got a super small business manager, Donna Knapp, and she's been a part of this since forever. And she could certainly articulate this, and we can do a deeper dive. I know in most trainings, including the fact that you can put questions in the Q&A, it's more of a 30,000 foot view. I try to drill down, and sometimes the questions still don't come, or the clarity still needs to come after the training. This is a training that I also mentioned will not only be posted on our website. This is one I'm encouraging you, especially if you are a prime contractor. If there's parts of what I'm sharing you're not clear on, you should certainly schedule to have a chit chat with my small business manager, Donna Knapp, or with me directly. No problem. We want to have that conversation. Next slide. This is just a copy or copies of the good faith application. So that's the other part. Most folks want to fill this out and sign their name and be done. It's really, as I've just been articulating, the idea that you complete this in its entirety, and completing this in its entirety will require you to give me backup documentation. You can't tell me, hey, Ms. McDonald, I had 2 different disciplines with a total of 11 of your CBEs who could fit those 2 disciplines, and I sent the email to them. You can't type that to me. You do know you need to demonstrate to me that you sent that email to those 11 firms. So we just want to make sure we could share the forms, but the forms is only substantive with the necessary backup documentation. So some people might say, wow, you make it pretty hard to meet good faith. Actually, we don't make it hard. That's why we're giving all the information. But if I was to take that lightly that I make it hard, it's because we want you to meet the goal. And folks, we try extensively hard with our user agency not to establish or set goals that are unrealistic or can't be met. It's very few of those that happen. Yes, there's more, unfortunately, that the prime didn't have enough time. And by the time they had to submit that bid in, because they definitely got to meet that timeline for that bid, they didn't fulfill their good faith or they didn't meet the goal. We're trying to tell everyone on the front end, make the small business participation a part of everything you do on the front end. Give yourself time to make sure you can not only advertise, promote, share the information, communicate with the small businesses, even do follow up with those small businesses. And if you just can't find them, do quality, good faith effort applications with backup documentation. But the real key here for good faith effort, let us help you find the CBEs so that you can meet or exceed the goal as a part of your recommendation on the front end. Here's the other part about that. Sometimes some of my primes have decided they're just going to do it as a strategy, because the ordinance allows us, when you submit your bid, you really are supposed to submit everything at the time of bid. But there is a part of our administrative procedure that if we are short with the goal, or if you're short, or if you haven't satisfied all of the requirements, we are allowed 3 days. You are allowed 3 days after communicating with us to go back and meet the goal, exceed the goal, or demonstrate good faith. Some primes have just decided, well, I'll just wait till the 3-day call. Don't wait for the call from this office for the 3 days. You really need to understand and respect the 3 days. That's to help you dot that final I, cross that final T, to make sure that you can demonstrate responsive and responsible for procurement. The 3 days really ain't for you to try to break your neck to begin trying to find CBEs that you didn't look at in the beginning. The 3 days isn't really for you to try to get LOIs that you didn't do in the beginning. The 3 days really isn't for you to try to now describe your good faith effort, because you're going to be short on time. So I want to make sure folks understand through the administrative procedures, we will continue if something's missing to contact you and inform you and give you additional 3 days. But that's really being designed and done to help you just do something minuscule. hopefully you're really not using it as a strategy not to do it on the front end. I'll wait till they call me. And the reason I'm saying it that way is you got to remember the last thing I just went over. The director is allowed to compare your good faith efforts, that application, to other responders. And if you run short just with the 3 days and you're not able to do it, and you make a good case on your application, keep in mind, you might make a very good case on your application, but I also get to compare you to the other bids that came in. So I definitely wanted to make sure that we share today the good faith effort application, and just as important, meeting or exceeding a goal should all be accomplished at the time you're submitting your bid, not waiting on a potential call that you got 3 extra days. Next slide. Things to keep in mind, folks. Think outside the box. My staff loves that. I'm going to tell you to think within the box. And guess what's in the box? Everything. Everything's in the box. Because maybe we've never described the box to you. When you see the recommended goal, it's because in working with the user agency that's buying the good, material, or service, we've had real conversations. They start off with my goal request form. They fill in all the blanks of what they're looking for. Folks, we exhaust ourselves. And based on what the agency's looking for, identifying how many subcontracting opportunities there are. And when my staff says think outside the box, and I say think within the box, which could be outside the box, what I'm saying is that when you see that bid and that opportunity, anything that a small business does that can provide a useful function is eligible. So that's the real essence of think outside the box, that even though I'm calling it within the box, you need to know the real sentence. When a bid is on the street and a goal has been assigned, any service that's a useful function, you can use a CBE for the service. I'm going to use that example that I have to remind some folks. There's a lot of surtax going on. There's a whole lot of asphalt, concrete, and road resurfacing going on. Folks, it's okay that if I am an asphalt company, if I'm a concrete company, I know I normally do 100% of it, but you know if you're getting the county's money or the city's money under surtax, 30% under surtax is going to small business. So even if you can't find a small business to do the striping, to do the rest of the curb or the sewer work, or to replace the landscape, or to do some MOT activities, or maybe some signage, even if you got to touch your own concrete and you're a concrete company, even if you got to touch asphalt and you're an asphalt company, anything that can be done that's a useful function, including if it's what you do as a prime, is eligible. Now, again, I know you don't want to take money out your own pocket. That's why we try to find additional subcontracting that's not in the industry that you are directly in. But I have to say that openly. If you have to find work that you do to meet our goal, it's eligible. Thinking outside the box is exactly what I just said in terms of road resurfacing. Maybe the CBE is a supplier of material. You can use them. Maybe the CBE does the striping, not the asphalting. You can use them. Maybe CBE is a landscape guy, and you part of your job is you have to tear up the curb and the median and that landscape, and it got to be replaced. You can use them. Maybe this is a part of a city project or a county project, and you had to do the notifications to the public or the road closure and other activities. You can use the CBEs. Maybe it's a part of a major reconstruction where there's going to be outreach done to different organizations and residents in the area. You can use CBEs. Any part of the job that's a true useful function, not just the traditional stuff you think about. Anything that's a true useful function, one way to help you not need a good faith effort application is you're now understanding anything that this job entails that I can identify a CBE to provide a useful function, I can use them. Want to make sure you have the link to the Broward County directory. Folks, that's our directory. It's a new line directory. It's online. It's new. It's a better feel than what the old one was. You can do some wow searches just to get the name of my firms. But we want to make sure you understand, as I said earlier, let's be doing the outreach on the front end when you first submit your bid and not waiting on that 3 days later to call. There it is again. Don't wait for the 3 days to start. You have to make this a part of your strategy. The small business, folks, the small business program is not going away. And I am so thankful that the county commission really supports the small business. And in case you didn't know, let me tell you why they support them. Not just because some of them are small businesses themselves. No, they support small businesses in Broward because, folks, SBA, Small Business Administration, classifies small businesses 1 to 500 employees. But did you know 89% of the businesses in Broward County, 89% have 20 employees or less. So folks, we are a small business community. And if Broward County, who buys a lot, we don't buy everything, but we buy a lot. And if Broward just got to buy, and if 89% of the businesses in Broward are small, I'm sorry, it just makes sense to use some of our small businesses, especially competitively. And note, the county's not crazy, and we're not going to be spending crazy dollar amounts just because they're small. But we do believe that there's a rationale and there's a formula to use that speaks to why it advances our economy by using businesses who are already in Broward, hire in Broward, pay taxes in Broward, get supplies from Broward. We will, with all the things the county buy, use small businesses as a part of the process. And when it comes to projects and bids with small business goals, we expect those goals to be met or exceeded when bids come back in. And in the case that prime can't satisfy that bid, that prime has to demonstrate, not just sign his or her name. They have to demonstrate they attempted to do the good faith effort. Always submitting supporting documentation. That's what I just said, not just sign that good faith effort form, submitting the supporting documentation. And folks, you need to understand, back in 2018, the county decided to put teeth in our ordinance. So there is a formula beyond what you're reading about liquidated damages. We mean this, but it's not done to be mean-spirited. We mean it, we're serious about it, but we believe we're never going to get here because on the original slides, you saw something called monthly utilization reports. Folks, the reason we do monthly utilization reports is that I don't want to get to the end of a project to find out that you didn't meet the goal. See, we are going to be playing with the ordinance later next year to make sure that there's clearly defined rules about good faith effort throughout the process. But one of the things I'm comfortable about now, even though we don't have that defined information in the current ordinance, that's why we do MURs. I'm checking with you, the prime. You're reporting to me as a prime every single month. My staff is looking to see, are you using the firms that you identified? If you're using them, are you paying the firms that you identified? And if you're using them and paying them, we're on the track of meeting the goal. That's why we do MURs, because we want to know during the contract with something. We want to work with you to resolve something if there's an issue. I'm not going to sit here on a 2-year contract to find out on month 21 that I'm short with the goal. We're not doing it. That's why we do the monthly utilization throughout the process. But on the front end, that's why we want to work with you on the front end to meet the goal as a part of the recommendation when you submit your bid, so you don't even have to do the good faith effort application. But just in case you couldn't find small businesses and you worked with me and you couldn't find small businesses, that good faith application will work well for you. My staff knows this, and you need to know this. The intent of the good faith effort application is to assure that you're successful. and submitting and responding. Most folks thought the good faith effort application was to assure that you didn't make it and forget about you. That's not the case. We want you to be successful. And at the end of the day, we're owning it. If we, in working with you, cannot identify CBEs, then we're going to help you submit that application where you are successful and we keep this job going. But we believe on the projects that we set goals and working with the agencies prior before the bid ever comes out, before you ever see it, we believe we've identified with the agency the subcontracting opportunities. We then check with our small businesses and our directory that they really are there, capable, able, and willing. And that's why that goal gets affixed to that solicitation. Next slide. So folks, that's where we are. That's our good faith efforts. What is it? That's what we want from you in terms of demonstrating you've made good faith. Those devil in the details. And again, these workshops always go fast. We get ready to dabble in some Q&A. So we always want you to know that you can always call us one-on-one. Right now, staff wants you to take the next 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and just do this customer satisfaction survey. Let us know a little bit about what you think about today's subject and the information. We like to collect this data. Going forward in January, we're going to go to about 4 or 5 questions. We want to be a little bit more detailed and even start asking you now in advance what type of things you want to see in the future. But right now, please take the next 20 seconds to at least answer these 2 questions as a customer satisfaction survey. And then we're going to come back to you for Q&A. All right, let's take about 10 more seconds. See if you can answer that for us real quick. And then we'll get to Q&A. And again, hopefully you put your questions in Q&A and not chat. And staff will read some questions to me. Thank you, Savika. We're ready whenever you're ready. Leaving the poll question. And go to the Q&A question.
Thanks, Sandy. We do have a question that came in from Shannon, who says, hi, I'm a new business startup with a cargo van, and I need help looking for work, please. So how would you direct Shannon to find out whether or not the county needs her services?
By all means, thank you for even asking that question. Savika will put my contact information in the chat. And I want you to introduce yourself to me and send me an email about you and your business. And I'm going to set you up with one of my staff, and we're going to talk to you about what you do and let you see how it fits or doesn't fit into our small business program. But we're more happy to do that. In addition, when I get your email, we will also add you to the newsletter. Every Wednesday, we send out a business opportunity weekly. That's our weekly newsletter. Tells you more about the program, tells you specific contracting opportunities, tell you about bids that we've actually put goals on, and it gives insightful information about the county and the city, even some of our initiatives. So we'll automatically add you to that email, and starting next Wednesday, you'll get that weekly newsletter. But send me a hello email, tell me more about yourself and your business, and I'll set it up to make sure we can answer if the county needs your services or not, and if so, what you need to do. Okay, Savika?
Okay. And yep, that sounds good. And the other comment and question we have is a long one from Celia. This one says, thank you for this presentation on good faith efforts. I've been a consultant with the county for a couple of decades, and I've been seeing some differences over the last few years with OESBD. For general engineering contracts where there is a CBE goal, there used to be a more level of trust that the firm would meet the goal, but that seems to have changed somewhat. We've been reached out to continuously to prove that we meet it, which we do with real upcoming projects with CBEs. With general engineering contracts, at times, the CBE payment percentage is higher at the beginning and lower at the end, but still result in meeting the goal. And at other times, the CBE payment percentage is lower at the beginning, higher at the end, but still in meeting and beating the goal. It's all dependent upon the type and flow of projects and the utilization of CBEs for the respective projects. But the goal will be met at the end. Please explain, what else can we do?
So I would definitely ask you, but I'm going to share this with the audience. Definitely set up a time for you and I to speak. Because see, I want to go through those highs and lows, those flows. Because especially based on industry. And that's the thing that you heard me talk about earlier when I said useful function. It is different with my A&Es, my architects and engineers. It is even different on my design sides. But what we're trying to do as a county, even as recent as right now, and my first two will actually be at the beginning of next year. On my architect and engineering side, there's some master agreements and others that are used where my CBEs can get in. And there's always revolving opportunities for 4 to 5 years. But on most of my projects, the architecture, the engineering and the design side, the professional services side, they really can't get in because the way the county sets up the projects, they're normally looking for that out of the big guy. And normally I also don't even set a goal on the professional service side. It's normally on the back subcontracting side, except we're now going to start moving forward. Construction Management Division has also committed themselves. We're going to start moving forward and finding even more opportunities on the front end, the professional end, of using more CBEs. Sometimes specifically establishing a goal for them on the professional side before I ever get to the subcontracting side. That's going to offer a little bit more consistency where I can have front end participation and back end participation by the architect or the engineer and be consistent with their use. One example to look out for coming forward, that'll be the first time I've done it, I've been here for 8 years, is when the county moves forward with the joint facility. Conversation has already been discussed publicly about the fact that I'll still set my traditional goal for the utilization of small businesses for the vertical construction, but on the professional service side, the front end, in addition to whatever work's being done, there will also be a small business goal on the front end. I haven't done that since I've been here. We've always set a goal, and if A&E and design can work somewhere in this middle, they get a real opportunity. And sometimes on their own, a prime might grab them for 2 or 3% on the front end, but there's never been a goal established on the front end. Going forward, with conversations of understanding I'm getting more A&Es, more design, more engineering folks certified, and they want opportunities outside of just these master agreements. CMD, our Construction Management Division, and our Public Works folks and Highway folks have decided that we're going to do more to afford more professionals on the front end. I did like the part of your question when you were commenting that in the end, you always met the goal or you look to meet the goal. That's why I really would like you to send me that email. We'll schedule a time to talk. I do want to go over your entire scenario because your ask was, what else can be done? So I need to explore more with you all that you've done. Make sure we use good examples of existing projects or past projects. That's the only way I'm be able to tell you what more I think you could have done. So thanks for the question. Definitely be on the lookout as we move forward. More professional AE design stuff on the front end with a goal by itself and still my at least 25 in the middle, but a goal on the front end. But definitely you and I should talk so I can get a more clarity to a specific project or others to be able to answer what else could you do.
Thanks, Andy. The next question is from John. Are architectural design firms able to send company information, portfolio prior to personal meetings? And is this helpful to any future submissions to the county? So
let's put it this way, and I've heard this from our folks. It's really not helpful to any future procurements. Responding to procurement is helping to procurement. Agencies are willing to take your portfolios. I'll take your portfolios. But we got to be honest, even though I'm familiarizing myself with you as well as with others, and if I forgot to mention earlier when we talked about businesses, you all do know there's 80,000 plus businesses in Broward County. 80,000, all different industries, but over 80,000 businesses in Broward County. And I know how in private industry, when you're introducing yourself to someone who's getting ready to do something and they need to meet you, those portfolios, those capability statements and all that is pristine. I still support and advocate those capability statements, especially when you meet my prime contractors. But the idea of sending portfolios to this office or to construction management division or to the highways division, I won't say they won't receive it, but you ask the question. I don't know how it really benefits you, because think about it, it's government procurement. Someone's going to write a spec one day. Someone's going to take that spec of what they're looking to procure. They're going to send it to this office for us to read, for us to determine if there's any small business opportunities. We're not looking for specific businesses by name. We're just saying, are there any subcontracting opportunities? When we realize there is, we're going to set a goal. Then we send that back to the agency in purchasing. They clean it all out and they send out a bid. Responders have to respond to the bid that's on the street. And those who have interest in the bid that's on the street is going to respond back. And even when it comes to the evaluation committees, those traditionally, which are identified by purchasing and executive office, those aren't the people who may have received your portfolio on the front end. And again, I do get it, especially in private industry. That portfolio familiarized you with who I am. So in case you see me on the back end of a bid, you'll remember me. That is private industry, but it's really not government. I'm not saying it would be of no use. I'm just being real clear about the procurement process. If I end up with it, it's going to help me and my staff to realize who you are and what you do, just to make sure that if you're eligible to get certified, you get certified. But similar to what I was saying earlier, if you're in my directory, primes have access to you through my directory. I'm never allowed to go on my directory and say, oh, go grab this. I read their portfolio. Oh, grab this one. They're the best. See, me and my staff can't even do that. Even when we work with primes and they want to know, hey, Shannon, I'm looking for an electrical contractor. I don't pick one. I give them the link and the access to all, or my staff, to save time, will grab the whole list and give them that. So again, don't want to be discouraging about portfolios, but also don't want to waste your money. You can send them. Some agencies will even receive them. Many agencies, for that reason and others, 80,000 plus businesses, they don't take one-on-one meetings. We do. I'll meet any business who wants to meet. We'll do it verbal. We're slowly getting back to face-to-face. We meet because we want to make sure that we're familiarizing ourselves with the industries and the businesses providing the services in Broward, and if eligible, get you into our directory, as well as help you through the process to be competitive in these counties' procurement. That's our day job. But I wouldn't say break your neck and spend a lot of resources sending portfolios. But by all means, introduce yourself. I certainly tell my small businesses, put together a quality capability statement, because when it's not me or user agencies, it's the best way to communicate with prime contractors. You want a prime contractor to know who you are? Have a quality capability statement that even after a meet and greet, when they meet you, they can go back and read that capability statement and maybe even go back to check your website based on what you read off the capability statement and based off of meeting you face to face. Capability statements are gold when dealing with small businesses and prime contractors looking for small businesses. That would be my answer.
And I wanted to remind our viewers and our audience today, if they do have questions that they would ask or they would like to ask aloud, they can click on the raise hand icon. I can unmute them and they can ask their question aloud. But right now, that's all the questions we have, Sandy.
So gang, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I need to say this to you as we go through these last 2 or 3 slides. The top number was 36 today, and I'm still talking to 35. So that means you were a little bit interested. Hopefully this information really did serve you well. I'm here, we're here right now because of the Community Relations and Outreach Division. They provide technical assistance. They do my workshops. We set up meet and greets, even when the agencies don't do pre-bid meetings. We want you to stay engaged. That Wednesday newsletter, that ball, that's another way to find out what we're doing. That ball even has a hot tips section that'll tell you about projects that we reviewed, that we set goals, that eventually will find their way to the street. So if nothing else, stay engaged with us. You can definitely do that by our community relations outreach. You had my email earlier in the chat. You can send me an email. We will respond to your email, whether it's a verbal conversation and you want to meet, or I need to assign you to one of my staff, we'll do that. Other ways of staying engaged, OESBC website, our CBE directory, that's that weekly newsletter I talked about. We are on social media, so we want you to follow us. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. And let's not forget about Matt Broward. I always got to say Matt Broward, Mobility Advancement Program. Some of you know it as penny tax or surtax. We're going to be screaming Matt Broward forever, because Matt Broward still has 28 more years to go out of the 30-year program. You need to know about Matt Broward. And if you don't, go to our website and read some past workshops on Matt Broward, or you can look for Savika to have her next Matt Broward workshop sometime around February or March of next year. But with that, I want to thank you for joining us on our Good Faith Efforts training. And it was just an opportunity to make sure the primes, as well as our small businesses, thoroughly understand what the expectancy is. And again, we will make sure that this is up on our website. But thank you much. Have a great day.